when you do decide to hang up your boots, what do you want to be known for?
I would like to be known for, I think in people's careers, you look back and you go, man, that was just a good few years working in that business with that team and that boss. And we had fun and we did some really good stuff. So I would like for people that have worked in the businesses I lead to look back at that period and be like, that was a good part of my career. And if I can do that, then that makes me really happy as a leader.
Louise, great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Hello, and thank you for having me.
Awesome. Hey, Louise, you've had a very interesting, unique career path. Can you take us through your journey?
Yes, it's not your typical career path, that's for sure. So very unique. I relocated to the Pilbara when I was in high school with my dad. My family moved there. My dad worked for BHP. So I went from high school into doing an apprenticeship, mainly because that's what everyone wanted to do in a mining town. I didn't have any epiphany about being a Sparky, but just followed that opportunity. And look, it was challenging for sure. Pretty different back then in the 90s in the mining industry, and that environment for women, much different to maybe how it was now. But I managed to stick that out and built a great deal of resilience during that time. But took my trade to London, and that's when I started working in buildings instead of the mining industry. Got some exposure to facility management and had that thought, that's what I could be one day. That was my sort of potential ticket off the tools. So when I moved to Sydney, I got my first facility coordinator job, and that started my career in real estate. Had a number of different roles in real estate, head of property management, director for technology, really just leaning into every opportunity as it came along. And I think in doing that, I had built up all this experience that when Schneider had this opportunity for the Vice President of Digital Buildings here in Australia, they saw my profile and realised what a good match it was, because I had that trade background, some end user experience, had done some technology transformation, and this would tie all that together.
Pretty cool. So you can connect all the dots. Louise, you've got a big role at Schneider. Mm-hmm. So tell us as to what that looks like. What's your day-to-day or weekly cadence?
Yeah. Vice President for Digital Buildings, that's commercial line of business that I'm running here in Australia. We've got about 350 people in the business here, delivering solutions for our customers in building segments that include healthcare, major hospitals, commercial real estate of all types, transport infrastructure, universities, data centres, and primarily the BMS or building management system, which is your HVAC control, lighting and room control, security and access control, as well as software analytics apps that enable the users of property and facilities to make their buildings more efficient.
And looking back at your career, if you were to go back 10 years, Louise, what have you noticed? What's been some of the biggest shifts in the industry from 10 years ago to now?
Look, dramatically changed. Firstly, the available data, so IoT devices, how cheaply that can now be collected, aggregated, AI on top of that. So if we cast an eye back 10 years, very segregated systems, quite difficult to get data out of building systems, a lot more proprietary systems in place, less open ecosystem. So I would say that big transition has been all vendors starting to move towards open platform and the ability to gather data from various devices in buildings, be that space utilization, your electrical infrastructure, your HVAC control.
It's an interesting journey. So we started playing with some of this IoT stuff a long time ago. I think we originally, maybe back in 2011, 2012, we started talking about it. And when you look at the research, it was saying quite clearly that all the facility managers and all the players are looking to implement some IoT strategy. But it seems that the uptake for all of that was quite slow. You think about the life cycle of the building, that kind of makes sense. But it's interesting that you mentioned that a lot of people are moving now towards more open sort of platform. Yeah. Again, from our own experience, working with buildings that have got proprietary equipment installed and only works with their own software and their own data, How are you guys actually seeing that shift? Is it like a retrofit, or are the vendors actually opening up the data, or so how are you able to make that leap?
Yeah, so not all systems, and particularly not legacy systems, will be open, but at Schneider, our EcoStructure platform is open, and that data is able to be connected to other systems. We have an exchange platform where APIs can be created and used by our various vendors. And in additional to the technology itself being open, it's also about open vendor. So a partner program where we have multiple different companies and businesses that can service and maintain that equipment and software as well, so that the customer always has choice. That would be the big driver. And I think customers have cottoned on to the fact that they're looking at that total cost of ownership of a technology system. There's what gets paid for during construction and that system, but then there's the ongoing service and maintenance, whether that's of APIs, the servicing of the system, the hardware, the compliance, and customers really want to have that competitive environment over the whole life cycle of their technology. And an open ecosystem where there are partners that can service that gives them that ability. We're probably seeing more, particularly in government, but now even more with institutional owners, that they're putting those requirements out in their RFPs, in their tenders at the construction stage, that's what they're looking for over the life cycle. So that would be a key change as well.
Yeah, I remember those days where whoever owned the head end basically owned the site. So increased competition, Louise, as you mentioned, is great for the customers. Obviously, we all know that for the life cycle of the asset. However, it brings about a great deal of internal conflict. So what have you done differently in order to stay ahead of the curve, and what are you having to do differently that you were doing perhaps 5-10 years ago to ensure that you are the provider for the life cycle of the...
Look, there's always competitive tension, right? Whether that's with partner businesses or with our true competitors. I think it comes back first and foremost to the customer needs. And we know that having that partner program positions us really well with the customers and actually gets us in the door. So firstly, that's the number one thing. Second, it's really knowing like how to play to our strengths. For the Schneider direct business, we really want to be at the big and complex jobs. We've got the balance sheet to deliver Sydney Metro train stations, to deliver on the Queensland hospital expansion project that's coming up. These are projects that take a large amount of capital. They've got a lot of risk involved. They're very complex. And we've got the size and scale and the backing to do that. And then our partner businesses might be more suited to mid-market real estate, hotels, and that sort of thing, growing them in the areas where they're well suited to, staying for us in those bigger, more complex projects, and then providing the customer choice along the life cycle as well. Yeah.
I've got a few questions. So partnership program you mentioned. So obviously the larger strategic project Schneider owns, you deliver, makes sense. On the SMB or mid-market, as you would describe it, like very similar to SaaS businesses, right? You're going direct and indirect. What have been some of the lessons learned? What steps are you taking to ensure that your partners are set up for success? Is there certification programs in place? Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a branded program. So it's called the Eco Expert Program. Partners who are a part of that program or that we agree a partnership with go through a training process to get the badge. And the badge will give them that ability to promote themselves in the market as a BMS installer, a lighting and room installer. It might be in digital or critical power, as an example, in UPS. And then they can promote themselves and the customer can know that badge gives the customer certainty that there's a base level of training. There's a technical support that we provide to the eco experts as well. So it's well regulated and it means that the customer can be sure of the quality that they're getting. So that would be the first thing we do there with those partners.
Something akin to like Master Electrician, where it's, hey, this is a trusted brand. We understand that they do that at a certain level.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to ask you is a lot of people listening in, obviously with our background, they've got trade following, but many of the software people too. They see Schneider as this big global giant and they think of obviously things around your home. So if I look at PowerPoint, if I look at my switchboard, it's usually one of the Schneider brands. But there's a lot of confusion as to what you just said, the large strategic projects where Schneider can actually own end-to-end process, and then some of the stuff that partners delivering. So If I am the building owner, as an example here, like what would be the terms of engagement? How do I ensure the end-to-end process is set up so I'm getting the best of Schneider through different channels?
Yeah. So with our, like, just maybe talking about where we have coverage in terms of our sales team, and we take a real segment approach. So that's having segment specialization that applies the technology and the unique value proposition of that technology to the segment. So real estate or healthcare, as an example. The technology is the same that goes in, but the value the customer is looking to receive from that technology is quite different. So in healthcare, it's all about resilience. It's all about uptime. It's really about keeping that hospital running and comfort conditions for the patients and the doctors and the surgeons and everything that goes into an operating hospital. In real estate, a big drive on energy efficiency, your neighbours' ratings, your tenancy comfort. There will be different applications and outcomes. We have salespeople and our sales team are segment aligned so that they can really go deep into understanding how that technology best serves the customer in that segment. And then our people will work with the customer firstly on their needs and requirements. And we actually sometimes take a decision to bring a partner into that conversation if we think that the project's not the right fit for us, that the partner's going to be better positioned to compete with, if it's a tier 2 or tier 3 competitor as well, they may step into that space. Yeah, but the real focus on really deeply understanding the segment. And then
on that thread as well, if we flipped it potentially to some of the people that we're working with, like how would, say, a tech company or a software company or something like that approach you guys to say, hey, I've got this idea, or I think we'd be able to work well together on a project? Like, how would they start engaging?
Yeah, so we get obviously lots of people reach out, new technologies, they think it might be a fit with us. I'm really curious, and even going back to my real estate days, just meeting with lots of startups and really getting into that. So I do continue to meet with new companies and chat with them. In country here, we might do a small pilot or partnership and test something out, but for anything to scale, we'd be engaging with my colleagues in the US, in the line of business, in Boston, where our R&D center is, and they would really put that through the tests in terms of the fit. But the things we'd be looking for would be compatibility, and is it complementary with our offer? Does it fill a gap that we can't otherwise build ourselves? Can the solution be scaled easily? Definitely the quality of the founder and the engineers and what they can bring to the table. Can it be embedded in what we're doing, or is there going to be a real significant uplift of training of our salespeople? Because that could be seen as a bit of a barrier. We've already got quite a broad offering, so getting our people just across what we do is a continual challenge. How easy is it going to be? Could it be embedded into our offer so that it's automatically added as an extra? But they would be some of the questions and tests that we'd be looking to make with new technology.
So potentially then the other way would be to take a look at the APIs you guys already have available and integrate with those.
Yep.
And then working directly with you guys directly, potentially engaging with the same customers and creating value add to the end user.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And we do lots of different collaborations like that at project level. It's just the question is, how easily are those things scaled, right? Are they a one-off, or is the demand there? Was it really a customer's bespoke requirement for that project? It's probably looking at that market readiness, market size as well.
Louise, you just mentioned the big R&D center in Boston. So obviously a lot of work is being done and preparedness for the future. So what are you seeing? What are the teams at Schneider seeing? What are some of the challenges that your crystal ball's telling you the construction industry and property industry is likely to face over the next 5 to 10 years, and how are you addressing them?
Look, the biggest challenge locally, I think it holds true globally, is going to be skills shortage in the face of a massive amount of capital being thrown at the energy transition, and everybody, all companies and governments trying to achieve a net zero outcome and address the challenges we have around climate change, whether it's from electricians, engineers, installers, the full software engineers, but the full range. There will be skills shortages as more and more projects start to come online. So how do we get around that? Building capability and encouraging more and more people into STEM, into sustainability type careers, obviously. But beyond that, AI is going to have to play a huge role here in making us all more efficient. So I think one of the ways Schneider is leveraging AI, I guess you would say, is as both making Schneider itself more efficient so that we have an AI center of excellence. And it's a hub and spoke model. But the first hub and spoke model is for our internal offers. That's an AI team that's really working with all of our various internal teams from data and governance, finance, supply chain, customer satisfaction and quality. And they're really looking at applying that type of technology to make us more efficient. And then we have a hub and spoke model for our offers. So how do we build AI into our offers that we deliver for our customers that can help make our people more efficient, whether it's technicians at a site level, but also to help our customers become more efficient as well.
It's an interesting one because especially in your background as a Sparky, like AI can't help you pull a piece of cable through a conduit or through a ceiling. What sort of approaches are you trying to look at making that side of things more efficient? Is it just better equipment, better training? How do you do that? How do you scale that?
Yeah. Look, that's probably labour is a massive challenge, particularly Queensland as an example, where currently pricing projects that would be commencing in 2 years' time. And we're seeing some of our installers' costs come in now at 30% more than maybe what they would have been 6 months ago. And that's the market factoring in that probably labour shortage, knowing that there's an Olympics coming, there's these hospitals being built. How can you make them more efficient? It definitely comes down to design, documentation, process. How can you make the wraparound of everything else they do more efficient? You can't necessarily make the pulling of a cable easier, but you can make the site access requirements, the safety requirements, as an example, for our panel builders, we've got AI that will take a bill of materials from drawings and create that initial bill of materials without someone doing the takeoffs manually. So there's efficiency that can be built into the process. But yeah, if anyone's out there with some ideas on how we can cut install time, prefab fabrication, the extent that it can be done. But yeah, I think there's a lot of opportunity for continued efficiency in construction, and the various softwares that are driving the automation of design and construction will support that.
There certainly is a lot of time wasted on a site. Very easy to measure the productivity of a service technician, but trying to measure the productivity of project techs without some sort of really in-depth production control or something like that. Yeah, very true.
Time and materials, right? So I think that comes back to the role that technology can play in the quantification of building materials, and also things like the timing of deliveries and when they arrive and the scheduling of that. Those inputs will make construction more efficient for sure.
Let's change the subject here for a little bit, Louise. You've got a sizable team. So give us a window into how do you think about forming your leadership team? What qualities do you look for? What do you lean towards the most?
Yeah. For me, diversity plays a huge part in that, and not just gender, but skills and backgrounds, making sure that there's a real complementary mix of skills in that group, particularly when we do have skills shortage, right? We're never going to find the perfect person that can do it all in a company like Schneider. We really need to balance someone that might have more digital and software skills with experience from the construction industry, that's got people that have deep technical knowledge, others that might have more segment experience. And for me, it's getting that blend of diversity of background so that when you create that environment of good collaboration, open debate, that ability for people to really feel comfortable in putting their opinions forward, that you get to the right results and outcomes for your customers.
Yeah, love that. And reflecting on your career journey, which has been, we talked about it earlier, it's been quite diverse in itself. Can you think of the biggest mistake you made, Louise, and what it was, and what was the lesson you learned from it?
As you can.
Be candid as you can.
There's a few. I did think on this because I was like, oh, what do you say? Look, I made a pretty terrible mistake, big mistake, when I was head of property management in the real estate sector. And I had made a decision to internalise some of the property management from an agency to our internal teams. And on the East Coast, in many states, institutional owners don't need a real estate licence. However, in some other states, you do. And I had taken that decision without making the right compliance checks, right? So we weren't effectively licensed to do that. And it was all stopped, and I extended the existing relationship with the agency, who were quite forgiving, given I had given them a termination notice. But it was a real good lesson of compliance, governance. You can have all of the commercial outcomes aligned. You can have all of the people aligned. You can know who you're going to put in what roles. But it was just the underpinning governance and checks and some things like that. That was a really big learning point for me, and it could have been quite bad had we ended up progressing without having that license in place. But we put a stop to it. We got the license, and then we made the transition. But it was very embarrassing for myself and others that I worked with. A big lesson learned.
Good example of something that diversity and background skills could have helped.
Exactly right. Yeah.
On the flip side, can you think of a couple of the most memorable moments, whether it be a bigger project or something that you personally or professionally that you're really proud of?
What makes me the most proud is seeing people that I have taken a punt on, maybe given their first big step up or given them an opportunity, but to watch them go on to more and more success, and to follow people's careers after you've worked with them or led them and see that success. I really take a lot of satisfaction out of that. And for me, I guess personally, this year I was admitted as a member of Chief Executive Women, which I had on my mental vision board for career for about 5 years. So that was a really nice moment of recognition of getting to a certain level in my career that I had wanted to.
That's awesome. Congratulations to you.
Thank you.
On that. So obviously you had a goal set, you've gone and achieved it, a great milestone. For anyone who is wanting to then enter the industry, Louise, or is wanting to follow something of a similar path as you, what advice would you give to younger Louise?
For me, my philosophy was always lean into stuff, say yes. Default position would be yes. If you're invited to an event, do you want to speak at this? Could you take on this project? I just said yes all the time particularly that first 10 years of my professional career. When you've got the capacity of not having kids as well, it's like quite easy to do that.
Yeah.
But that's how I built my network. That's how I got my name out there. That's how I got the exposure, the skills I needed that made me ready and the obvious choice such that promotions were offered. And it was doing all those things, I think, that had positioned me well for that. And the other thing, I liken careers to collecting the badges, the Girl Guides or the Scout badges, right? Do something different. If you've got the people leadership badge, you need to collect the commercial, get some sales experience. Have you done technology? And that's why I did technology at AMP Capital, is that I was like, look, every executive role in the future is going to need technology skills. I will do this role just to collect that skill. And that led to me getting the job I'm in now. But yeah, really thinking about what badge do you need? How does it complement the other skills that you've got?
That's a really good tips, right? Like face your fear, be somewhat intentional, do your research, just get into it. Just do the doing. And then what about the next chapter of life? What are you excited about, Louise, in terms of, so 2-part questions at Schneider Electric? What's coming up in the next couple of years? You mentioned Brisbane Olympics and obviously gearing up for that, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And then personally, what's the next 3-5 years look like for you?
Yeah. Look, at Schneider, definitely some big and exciting capital investment coming in Australia. Queensland Health, I talked about. Brisbane Olympics is another one. There's some great projects. There's some really big real estate projects in New South Wales that we're looking at for upcoming years, and they excite me. I love real estate at its heart. Being a part of those is just fun. We're also growing our enterprise software business here as well. So more and more looking at how we can support customers at an enterprise data level, be that with facility management type softwares, building analytics, but looking to further establish and grow that part of the business. And personally, loving my time here at Schneider. So not going anywhere in that sense, but looking to continue to round out my experience in this company. And it was a pretty steep learning curve when I joined, from a marketing sense, from the transactional business as well, in terms of some of the products. Yeah, looking to further grow my skills in those areas, because that's still feeling pretty new to me too.
Yeah, exciting. See what the future holds.
Last
Last question from me, Louise. This has become my favorite question of late. Like when you do decide to hang up your boots or when you do decide to retire, what do you want to be known for? What should be your lasting legacy?
I would like to be known for, I think in people's careers, you look back and you go, man, that was just a good few years working in that business with that team and that boss. And we had fun and we did some really good stuff. So I would like the people that have worked in the businesses I lead to look back at that period and be like, that was a good part of my career. And if I can do that, then that makes me really happy as a leader.
Yeah. If you could be their highlight.
Yeah.
Wins and steals. What would you say some of the larger challenges that you have solved are?
Look, probably, for example, when I started here, I reshaped the business from having a branch model, so end-to-end businesses in each capital city, to having a national delivery structure, so a national construction business, services and sales team. And we had to do that in order to drive efficiency so that we could invest in other areas, segment capability, marketing capability, digital and software leadership capability. And when you've got duplication of resources everywhere doing the same thing, it really holds back your ability to invest in some of the new horizon things. Yeah, taking those types of decisions.
It sounds like it's also contributing to another problem you mentioned earlier, which is a labor shortage. We just don't have enough people that do enough stuff. And when you've got people sitting around and doing the same thing, it's like, it's not a very good utilization of that at all.
Yep, 100%. And look, we've started using, we've got a global engineering center in India. So we will scale that up and down depending on our capacity here. So simple things like graphics, really easy to outsource, and then more and more complex engineering as those teams build more capability themselves. And we can dial that up and down depending on the capacity that we have within our engineering teams.
Yeah, one thing I've said to a lot of people over the years is like when they start looking at creating some efficiencies in their business and they look at, is there somebody in the room that's my job? And you think, how do you look at that and potentially say, we're going to redeploy these skills, these people into these other areas, which actually are going to be able to bring more value. They're going to be able to engage with our customers. They're going to be able to engage with our partners, that sort of stuff. I always find that's a very tricky conversation to have because people get very emotional about potentially like efficiencies.
Yeah.
Doing a matter of a job.
Yeah. With our engineering workforce, the idea is that we give them the capacity to do the more highly skilled, complex engineering of systems integration platforms, data, and outsource the kind of lower value routine work. So it's about investing in and growing their capability rather than so it's not about reducing the workforce, but enabling our workforce to do high value work. And look, in services, there was definitely, as more and more building analytics has come into the service space, the technicians that's what I used to do. I used to interrogate the system to work out what the faults were and what needed to be fixed. And now that's being automated, but it's actually repositioning that with our service tech so that it's now that you've got that information at hand, you can invest more time discussing with the customer what needs to be done, where they're going to get the most value, what's their primary outcome they're looking to achieve. Is it comfort? Is it energy efficiency? And go from there. So we've done quite a bit of work just in helping to shift the mindset of the value that it's bringing to the individual level role as well.
That's another point I've made a lot of the times as well. Is, hey, why would you rather spend 95% of your time looking at things that's perfectly fine and 5% of your time actually doing some interesting work versus flip that on its head. Spend 95% of your time doing stuff that needs to be done and it's actually interesting. 5% of your time is going, just check it. Yes. Flip that whole sort of way that people work. And it's
exactly.
Yeah. End up doing way more meaningful work. It was the same whether it be Simpro or looking back at internet or what happened in the agriculture. Like you brought about better output. Any further questions from you, Curtis? You're on a roll there, so I thought you might have one more. Yeah, go for it.
Key technical problems. I know we've spoken a bit about business problems and people problems and that kind of stuff, but what are some of the key technical challenges you guys are facing other than AI stuff and image recognition, that sort of stuff? What are the sort of key technical issues you guys are working through at the moment, given that you're in digital?
Yeah. We're a mature business, so our core offers run pretty smoothly, right? Like our people are experienced. They know what we're doing. There's good, training rollout. So we probably don't get so much like technical issues. The issues generally more arise around the application of the technology to meet the customer outcome. And it always comes back to people, right? Communication, understanding of that outcome. Has there been a misalignment? It would be less that the technology is not capable and more that has the right collaboration taken place to get the technology to deliver the outcome that the customer wants.
Yep.
Because we're not really, our offers are mature, so we don't have the technical issues, but definitely you would say it's the application of technology to meet outcomes and getting that right. Yeah.
Makes a ton of sense. We'll move to a quick fire round now, Louise. Every guest that jumps on, we ask the same questions.
Yes.
They're usually quite easy, but sometimes it can get quite tricky. So let's see how it goes. Favorite sports team?
Mascot netball club A grade, which is the netball team I play in. Can you say that?
Absolutely, you can say it.
It's my favorite. I love those guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's my favorite.
What about favorite music type? What do you go for? Whether on the weekends or what's on your playlist?
Yeah, electronic music, house, techno, drum and bass.
Nice.
Yep.
Brilliant. What about this one? Favorite movie of all time?
Oh, that's hard. The Goonies, I think. The Goonies.
Oh, no, I had that before. Yeah.
It's a classic.
Nice.
Yeah. Watch it with my daughter now. It's still good. Yeah.
Yeah. Fantastic. What about favorite place? So this is you can answer it two ways. Favorite place to visit or favorite place that you haven't been to yet that's on your bucket list?
Oh, favorite place to visit. Love Europe, Spain. Yeah, could go again and again. Yeah.
And this is the last. This is where it gets tricky. It gets quite controversial, this one. Peanut butter. How do you like yours? Crunchy or smooth?
It's crunchy and there's no contest.
Awesome. Louise is on the right side. This has been great, Louise. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for sharing all your insights and picking the right peanut butter choice there too. So thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.